They called it a glitch, but for veterans' families, it meant months without rent, food, or security. In this hearing, the truth finally comes out. The VA didn't fail because of technology. It failed because of silence, poor planning, and leadership breakdown. And the people who paid the price were young beneficiaries who had no backup and no warning. Watch closely, because this moment exposes a system that left veterans behind when they needed it most.
Recognize Ranking Member Pappas for 5 minutes.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Haycock-Lohman, for joining us here at this hearing. We really appreciate your testimony. Now, VA had been calling this problem for months a technical glitch, but it really wasn't technical at all. It was a result of poor planning and management. And I'm just wondering if you can tell us more about the level of communication that you may have or have not had with VA to understand this challenge. And so, did you receive direct communication from VA about this issue, or how did you learn about it?
We learned from students in schools. We started getting large numbers of outreach, and other VSOs were hearing similar things when we actually do have biweekly education calls within the VSO community to communicate the things we are hearing. And we all started hearing a lot of the same things. We were able to work through some back channels and start hearing, especially from committee staff, that they were hearing consistently that there was a bigger issue. But to date, we have not received any briefing or messaging from VA on the pathway forward.
Okay, so and as you said, no stakeholder meeting, no quarterly meeting, those haven't been happening, no direct communication. So you're piecing this together with your colleagues from other organizations and based on what you're hearing directly from your members?
Yes, as well as committee staff who were hearing the same thing, and we're getting more communication, at least than we were.
So like you, I've been hearing from people on this issue, from constituents who have been impacted by the failure to pay benefits on time. And I spoke to one of those stories in my opening statement. And so here I ask unanimous consent that the October 2025 report from the National Association of Veterans Program Administrators on the impact of missed payments and the government shutdown into the record, as it has direct quotes from beneficiaries and hardship and emotional stress that has been put on our veterans and beneficiaries. So Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to put this report into the hearing record.
Without objection, sure.
Well, thanks. And so Ms. Haycock-Lohman, what impact, you talked about your own personal experience with delayed benefits. What impact does 4 months of missed benefits have on someone?
Most Chapter 35 recipients are children. They are between the ages of 18 and 26. They are young adults. They don't have savings. They generally don't have other income or benefits coming in. So 4 months of no payments means 4 months of missed rent, 4 months of not making car payments, scrambling to pay for food, things like that these young adults should not be having to deal with. This is a pretty young community. They don't have that savings. They generally don't have credit. And it also opens them up to predatory actors, things like looking for payday lenders, title loans, emergency situations when you're that desperate to make sure you don't get evicted.
You made an important point. There are a lot of folks that are just not moving money between accounts to be able to deal with the lack of benefits being paid on time. And so you mentioned that people aren't necessarily whole even if their benefits have been paid. Well, I appreciate that. And, can you talk about other ways that you think VA should be acting to address this? You gave us a list of things that you would hope VA could take under consideration, including making the hotline permanent, ensuring that that's always open for GI Bill beneficiaries, making sure that those stakeholders' calls get back online. So, what can we work with you on to ensure that VA is, taking steps that are going to help either prevent this from happening again, but also, making sure ultimately that people who have these tough cases and aren't getting their answers have some way of getting through the system.
A big piece of that is transparency and working with the VSO community. We are oftentimes talking to survivors, veterans, more closely and daily than the VA generally is. So we are hearing these stories, but we're also messaging to them. We put out newsletters. We have social media with large followings. We have ability to make sure this information is getting to the community that it needs to. When VA is sending out, they have not sent out really anything specific on this to date. That's large. We have newsletters and things that are hitting the population that are actually read more closely than large things from VA that are in legalese that they might not understand what exactly that VA email says, but the way we're able to word it, because we're not tied to those legal rules, makes it a little easier for survivors to understand. But if we don't know what's going on, we can't message that to our community.
Sure, certainly. And I think you probably heard the exchange that we had with VA officials on the first panel. Congress was kept in the dark on this. VSOs were kept in the dark. Beneficiaries were kept in the dark. That level of transparency, you think that would have helped individuals, even if they know their benefits were going to be late, just knowing what was going on and being able to plan would have been of some value to folks.
Absolutely, because they could have, we could have messaged this out to survivors. We could have worked more closely ahead of time with some of our partner scholarship organizations and the other programs out there that support survivors to make sure that, instead of this very scrambling of trying to make payments, that we were working with them and getting them into some of these other programs to help offset the immediate costs earlier instead of waiting until it was too late because we didn't know what was happening.
Well, I thank you for your testimony today and answering those questions and for being patient with us too. This is an important issue, and we want to continue to engage with you. And you often help us understand how veterans are receiving information, how beneficiaries are encountering challenges with programs, and so your feedback is so critical. Thanks for being here. I yield back.
This exchange exposes a quiet crisis that hit veterans' families where it hurts most, their ability to survive. What the VA dismissed as a glitch wasn't a software issue at all. It was a breakdown in planning, communication, and accountability. While officials stayed silent, young beneficiaries, many barely out of high school, went months without rent money, food security, or transportation. Veteran service organizations didn't hear from the VA. Congress didn't hear from the VA. Instead, advocates pieced together the truth from panicked students, overwhelmed schools, and desperate families scrambling just to stay afloat. 4 months without benefits isn't an inconvenience. It's eviction notices, missed car payments, and exposure to predatory lenders. And even when payments finally arrived, the damage was already done. This moment matters because it shows exactly how government failure ripples outward. When transparency disappears, people pay the price. And when veterans and their families are left in the dark, trust in the system collapses. The question now isn't whether this was avoidable, it's why no one sounded the alarm sooner, and who will be held accountable to make sure it never happens again.